If you're
So
gonna go,
what you
go.
want to talk about?
Hell, I don't know. I
All
went.
right, I got something to complain about.
Okay.
Okay, so what I've seen is we have people that are leaving the prison system, and there's like there's no halfway point between going out completely free and being basically committed to the state hospital,
Okay.
and that is very sad to me. That the only way to help certain significantly mentally ill people is either keep them incarcerated or keep them in a state hospital. But there aren't lower step down things for people coming out of prison, especially when they have no money or finances,
Right.
which a lot of significantly mentally ill people are people that have the most problems. We talked about this, that they're coming out of the foster care system,
Right.
graduating into the prison system, and then coming out to go to a state hospital.
Right.
And that makes me be very sad about the state of affairs.
Well, most of the problem is because the entire re-entry process is abstract to most people. You know, it's as far removed from their everyday reality as going to the moon. Most people, just like they have the misconception that prison is supposed to make you a certain way and you're supposed to be a certain way if you were in prison, most people think that when you're in prison, it's like, oh my God, prison's terrible. And then, uh-oh, it says running out of time. What do you know?
Yeah.
Huh. Alrighty. Most people think that when you're in prison, it's like really super bad. Everything has to be misery and pain. And there's a level of misery. I mean, even on the best day. And they also think that when you get out of prison, it's, well, you're out of prison now. Everything's fine. You know? I mean, think about it. What type of significant surgery do you have with no recovery period? What type of injury do you have that doesn't require rehab? You know? And without any better way to say it, man, prison hurts people's brains. And some of them need a recovery period, you know, a transition. A lot of people.
Most people, for you, you were in a different case, I think, because you had a great amount of support around you.
Right.
You had people that were prepping you, you were prepping yourself, and you're very smart. And you also have a strong support system, which are two big things to make you successful. But we have people that they're leaving the prison system and they have nothing.
Nothing.
And nobody.
Nothing. And there's no, I'm not going to call it a safety net. It's just that there's no handholds. It's like they're on the side of a mountain and there's no handholds. There's no rope. You know, it's like they drop them here on the side of the mountain and say, there you go, man. You know, not even at the bottom. They're not even at the floor, the ground level. It's a 5,000 foot cliff, and they put them at 2,500 feet. So you know you can't go up, you can't go down. They just try to hold on. And
yeah, and they got their $50 in a bus ticket.
Yeah, and I didn't even get that, bastards.
No,
I got a Google ride from a guy that I swear was a homo. I mean, lived an alternative lifestyle. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's I've seen it over and over, and then we get mad when they're not successful.
Yeah.
And we say, oh, look, if they really wanted to do well, they would do well. You're looking at some people because one of the things that they do, when you come into the system, is they do an IQ test on you.
Yes.
And you're looking at people that 70's the cutoff. Well, it used to be. Now there's a bunch of other factors. But
Right.
70's the cutoff where you're considered mentally retarded. And I'm seeing people 78, 80, 85. It was rare that you saw people over the 100 mark, which is average. So you're looking at people that are already below average. Some of them are functionally illiterate. And you're like, see you later. Here's $50 in a bus ticket.
And
figure it out. It's like, what are we doing?
just as significant is those are the same guys that were represented by public defenders. And it's impossible to even believe that they could aid in their own defense, you know, and then they get dropped off in prison with law clerks to help them because, I mean, what are you going to do? You know, most of these guys, their cognition is very low. You ask them, did this happen in court? Did that happen in court? And they tell you, man, I don't know. You know, you wonder if they were even in the courtroom when the whole thing went down. So how is that fair? How is that fair representation?
No,
You
and
know?
they don't understand just regular English. Never mind that fancy legalese. Like,
Yeah.
it's not there.
Yeah.
And then you're also looking at individuals where a great amount of them are coming from bad backgrounds with in and out of foster care, instability, a whole bunch of trauma. And then we expect them to be functional.
Right.
But there was never any fixing or dealing with any of those issues.
Right.
And we've talked about it before. A lot of violence comes out of a feeling of fear.
Sure.
And you've got individuals that they were physically, sexually, emotionally abused, go into the prison system, they fight, stab.
Sure. And
Never
also,
learn how to cope.
sometimes confusion leads to aggression, where when guys don't really understand, where they fail to really grasp what's going on, they just become aggressive, you know, and that's even available from the staff. You know, if there's a CO and he doesn't understand, you know, about needing to pass to get to the law library or something, and you tell him, look, I need to pass the law library. If you don't understand it, you know, he just gets aggressive. Just get out of here. Leave me alone. I'm going to lock you up, you know, and a lot of people do that because they don't want to be seen as stupid. You know, I don't want you to think I don't know what's going on, so I'm just going to change the game here. I'm just going to get mad. I'm just going to get upset and aggressive about it. You know?
Yeah, it's the puffer fish.
Yeah.
I always call that the puffer fish.
Yeah.
Where, you know, the puffer fish gets touched, and the way that the puffer fish makes sure that it stays safe is to appear very, very large.
Yeah.
But it's all hot air. It's all hot air.
But in prison, it's not all hot air because they'll whack you in the head with a pipe or hit you with a lock or something. Yeah, they'll catch you
start stabbing.
they'll catch you at the water fountain and they'll creep you, or you stand there watching TV and get whacked.
Yep.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're getting poked up.
Yeah.
All because somebody felt threatened about something. And meanwhile, it wasn't even a big thing.
Yeah.
But you know, you have those of us on the outside that are trying. We're trying to figure out how to do this. We're trying to figure out different ways. And I wish Rebus was here because he had posted something yesterday that I wanted to talk to him about and what it meant. Because he had said something about not knocking people that are trying.
That's right.
To help out here.
Well, and see, Rebus and I had that discussion. Wow. What we were talking about, he and I, is how when I was being interviewed on Lockdown 23-1, and I talked about the critics, you know, that always say you should have did this, you should have did that, you know. And it's a quote by Teddy Roosevelt about the man in the arena, you know, that you should never fault somebody for trying, you know, that the respect is for the man who's trying to get it done, who's got the sweat on his brow and the blood on his hands and, you know, the grit in his eyes, you know, because he's the one who's trying, you know, even when failure is in front of him, you know, he's still trying to make it work. And, you know, everybody fails. And there's several maxims and adages about when you do something wrong and you learn from it, it's an experience. You do something wrong and you refuse to learn from it, it's a mistake. You know, so that's what it was. And, you know, there's a lot of people who are criticizing others who are out here trying to make a difference, trying to enlighten people, trying to lead the way for others, you know, especially the guys that are getting out of prison. And they criticize because it's not important to them. And it won't be important to them until somebody opens up a group home right down the street from their house with a bunch of ex-cons, then it's going to become an issue, you know, or anything like that. Or there's an ex-con where they work, or there's an ex-con that drives their kids to school where the same place these other people drive their kids to school. You know, then it becomes more of a reality because it's in their face, it's in front of them. And in the meantime, they just criticize, you know. And I tell guys in prison, when I was in prison, you know, we have a tendency to make a big deal about what affects us as people. And I know that prison reform is a tough subject because they were out here, society, I say they, the guys making the rules were out here having to decide which food to take off of students' trays for their lunches. You know, so if it came down to a program at a prison or a burger on a kid's tray, obviously the burger is going to win out. Yeah. You know, and it's difficult to try and help people understand the impact of absence in prison, the impact that not having something makes, the impact of not having a trade, you know, the impact of not having a constructive class to go to. And especially, you know, in prison, they've got the cutoff. Only a certain amount of guys with life sentences can be in each class. Mm-hmm. I have seen empty desks in vocational programs in prison because they were at the life sentence maximum and none of the short timers wanted to be there. Mm-hmm. You know, and I mean, there is a level of appreciation when you know that a guy is really only gonna reap the benefit of knowledge from a program. You know, it's not like, oh, if I take this program, then I qualify for work release, or if I take this program, then I get 6 months off, or I get 60 days off, or whatever. When the only benefit that a guy with a life sentence gets from a program is the actual information and the knowledge that he learns from the program, you know, there's a level of appreciation for that. And some people lack that appreciation. They think, why is he taking a class? He's got a life sentence. That's a waste of time. You know? And there's not enough programs. There's just not enough programs in prison. There's not enough programs in prison. And now when they see that there's so much idle time and the idle time leads to chaos and the chaos leads to violence, then all they can think about is punishing the violence. But what about the beginning of the equation, which is not enough programs and idle time?
That's one of the things that, because one of the things that I find that a lot of security staff don't appreciate is their jobs are easier and safer if you improve prison conditions. There seems to be this us and them mentality that anything that the inmates get is somehow taking away from them, which is not the case at all.
Well, I'll show you a classic example of the biggest misconception in Florida prisons. Televisions. The television. If I worked in a prison, I would keep the TV on in my dorm as much as I could. It's a babysitter. Yeah. You turn on the TV, there's going to be at least 20 guys you don't even have to worry about because they're going to be stuck in front of the TV watching something. You know?
Well, that's a great thing with the tablets now.
Yes.
And that's how because, you know, Vizos are suspended right now.
Right, yes.
You have programs
yes.
that are suspended because they can't group them up.
Mm-hmm.
But those tablets, and they've been giving them free games.
Yes, free games and free movies, free emails. Right.
Yeah, so they're just sitting there happy as anything with their thing.
Right. But
I'm telling you, if that wasn't there, they'd have big problems right now with all the
restrictions. But what I'm saying is the problem is that a cop in prison would much rather look at the situation like, I'm not giving them the TV, instead of saying, this is how I benefit from allowing them to watch the TV. When we started, when there was a gap when the DOC stopped buying televisions to when they started allowing people to donate them, right? I mean, and here, this just shows you some more senseless punishment is it used to be where if you donated a television, you had no control over where it went. It could go anywhere. Well, let me ask you a question. Who the hell's going to donate a TV if they don't know where it's going to go? Now, once they started saying, if you want to donate it in your dorm, go ahead, but that doesn't mean you're going to stay there, right? Okay, well, at least guys were now donating a TV that they could realistically benefit from, and donations increased. Well, the first time big flat screen TVs came to a prison where I was at, the cops would stand there and look at it and say, I ain't even got no 52-inch TV at home. Well, man, listen, you're on the street. If you don't have a 52-inch TV, that's a you problem. Go buy one. You know, don't hate that somebody made sure we who have to sit so far away from the TV, you know, it's like a little cinema where we're sitting in the day room, that somebody gave us a TV big enough where we could actually watch it, you know. But instead of saying, man, you know, where a smart guy would say, look at that, man, put a TV on the wall, 40 guys there just watching it. 40 guys you don't even have to worry about. Just turn on the TV, here they come. Instead, they're like, man, why do they get to watch TV? So when the cops will start seeing how giving things to the inmates will actually help them and help them do their job and benefit them on an everyday basis, things will start getting better.
Yeah.
You know, it's
like,
us.
Think of it, it's like the Venn diagram where there's a lack of understanding by a lot of the staff. You know, you have the circle and the other circle and they overlap.
Yes.
It's a mutual benefit in that middle space. But I see so many security staff, they don't want to acknowledge that overlap in the middle.
No, because they have...
It's that they refuse to acknowledge it, or they don't believe... I don't know where the disconnect is.
Well, the disconnect is that there's a lot... The same thing you can say about a lot of inmates, you can say about a lot of staff. There's a parity. And that is low aptitude, you know. They don't want anything more. I mean, there's some guys that retire as COs after their 25 years, you know. They don't want anything more. They don't want anything better. And they really don't want the big picture. All they think about, it's simple. You're an inmate. You're less than human, you know. And that makes it easier for them. You know, and they don't really care. They don't care about the big picture, about human relations. They don't care about any of that, you know. And they actually fit the profile that they want to give a lot of inmates. You know them, I know them. If you take off the uniform, you got some guys that the officers have the same attributes or lack of attributes as the inmates, some of the inmates, you know. The only difference is the uniform. That's all. When we got the MP3 players in prison, why do they have to have MPs? You know, why are they giving them that? You know, that's all it is. Why are the inmates getting this? Why are the inmates getting that? You know? It's like if it was up to them, they would just open the door in the dormitory and throw a loaf of bread in, and that would be chow. You know, instead of feeding them, they just open the door and throw in a loaf of bread and then have at it. There's breakfast. That's how they treat them. That's how they would treat us. And it's bad. It's really bad. It's really bad.
That's crazy. Yeah. And there's this whole thing too that, you know, the no MP3 players, the way to get everybody to behave is to beat them into submission.
Right. It's not the carrot, it's the cane. You know, it's not the carrot, it's the cane.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you found it helpful. If so, please go ahead and support us by liking and subscribing. If you have any issues that you would like addressed, any problems that you would like us to help you figure out a solution to, please hit us up by email. The information is going to be in the description part of this video. We are more than happy to help you figure out grievances, issues within the prison system that might need fixing. Also, anything that you would like to know about reentry and how to do reentry, please just hit us up. We're more than happy to help. And also, please remember to like and subscribe and absolutely share if you found this helpful.
There you go. See you next time.
See you next time.